Welcome, welcome, welcome to another exciting episode of Wind Down with Kev. Oh my God, my guest today. Can't wait to get to her and introduce her, but let me start with gratitude always. First, thank you to all of you out there taking time out of your day to watch us on live stream, to tune in on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are. We appreciate you. And even bigger thanks to all of you that have clicked on and subscribe to our YouTube channel that's receiving notifications. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And even more thanks to our sponsors. Have to do a shout out to our sponsors, Carol Media and Canopy Connect. Please reach out to them for all things digital. And welcome to our newest sponsor, Wintrust Bank, my personal banker for all of my agency purchases and acquisitions. Please reach out to them if you need any help. All of that being said, I couldn't be more excited than I am with today's guest. David Letterman likes to start off by saying, my next guest needs no introduction. My next guest, formerly by Allstate standards, she's been an Allstate agent for all of 90 days. But no, it gets better than that. She is a legacy agent. She literally was born in the business. She just took over for her mom, who's a legend all in herself. But today we're going to make about my next guest. She's a legacy agent, born in the business, following her mom's huge footsteps. She's a wife. She's a mother of four. And get this, ages 2 to 22. Wow. If that doesn't pique your interest, I don't know what it is. But put your hands together, put it in the comments. Let's give a warm Wind Down with Kev welcome to Kristen Maxwell.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
happy to have you here. How are you doing today?
Awesome. Excited to be here.
Good, good, good. Well, Kristen, I did my best with your introduction, but I always like to give my guests the opportunity to tell my audience something about you that I left out from the introduction, something you'd like for them to know.
One other interesting tidbit is that I'm a fourth generation insurance agent. So not only was my mom an Allstate agent for 30 years, almost exactly, but her mom before her was an agent with an independent agency for many, many years, 30 years. And prior to that, my great grandfather was a life insurance agent. He actually owned a life insurance company and would go door to door and collect premiums, and was a Gideon and would go preach to people and minister to the homeless and stuff, and in Corpus Christi, Texas, where our primary location is. And so would talk to people about life insurance and Jesus. So that's
I
our
love
background.
it.
That's where we come from.
I love it. Well, that is good stock. We are
Yeah,
here. So I'm going to go back to grandmom, which I didn't know about.
yeah.
If we subtract 60 years, was she one of the first female agents in the business?
Probably, honestly, she passed away last year,
My
and
condolences.
very sadly, thank you. Right before Texas Leaders, right around that time frame, actually last year, she passed away. But I think her story was really interesting because during the time that she passed away, my mom's brother called me because he was working on her eulogy, and he was asking me about kind of the relationship between my mom and my grandma. And it occurred to me that part of the reason why my mom was so successful was actually because my grandma was so successful. And so it was really interesting to sit back and think about the fact that she was actually never able to get licensed because she was a woman back in the day. And so the men would be able to get the licenses and write the policies and do all of the networking and stuff, but the women did all of the behind the scenes work. But she was never allowed to get licensed. And so it was really interesting because that was a big foundational part of my mom's success was her ability to organize and implement processes. And that came from her starting to work for my grandma in this IA where there was a whole bunch of different agents and they had to have organization versus in an EA world, we have a tendency to just have a couple of staff typically, or we certainly did back in the 90s when she started out. But she started out with kind of a bigger picture in mind and wanted to make sure that there were systems and processes put in place. And a lot of that was attributed to my grandmother and the way that she was brought up, starting to work, I think, at the age of 15 for my grandmother. So,
Well,
Interesting family history.
I love your family history. I'm a benefactor of what the things your mom put in place. Today, we have a lot of agents like myself with coaching and mentoring services, but your mom never did it. She just shared with everyone everything she had. So
Mhm.
I think last year was my first time meeting her in person. Shout out to Laura Harris. We'll just go ahead and say her name. Um, Meeting her in person, but she was a friend in my head for all 18 years that I've been an agent because of those processes that she put in place and freely shared with other agents. So to know the backstory, your family history, going back to your granddad being a debit agent, going door to door,
Yep.
preaching the gospel and preaching
Yep.
the gospel of insurance, right? A good
Right.
person leaves an inheritance to his children's children. I love that combination, and spiritually, it definitely lines up with where I am. So, fast forward 90 days ago, let's talk about your backstory within the agency. Your mom started with her mom at age 15.
Right.
When did you first get your hands dirty and jump in the business?
I was 12 in 1994 when my mom opened her agency in Corpus Christi, Texas, and she had actually been managing a state farm agency, and she was making like 20 or $25,000 a year, and really didn't care to be a business owner, but it was a way that she saw that she could make more money, and so she was introduced to the Allstate opportunity by a MDL in the area that was active at the time, and she decided to open her agency, and it became a family affair. My sister is 2.5 years younger, and she and I worked in the business. Texas labor laws actually are pretty wild, and they don't have any limitations on working as far as ages if it's for your parent. And so, anytime we weren't in school, we were at the office just stuffing envelopes or going door to door and doing door hangers and actually telemarketing. I telemarketed out of the phone book when I was 12 years old. I would call people and ask if we can quote their insurance. And I'm sure it was absolutely terrible. I'm glad we didn't have call recordings back in those days. We had an actual phone and a big phone book. And I would just call everybody in Corpus Christi and say, "Can we quote your insurance?" And so that's kind of where things began. But over the years, I was able to go into all different departments. I have been in every different department of the agency throughout the years. So I've done customer service. I did a ton of retention stuff. I was in the sales department for a brief period of time, done sales management, which I wasn't that great at. Thankfully, we've replaced. My husband has replaced me in that particular position several years ago, and he does a much better job than I ever did because he's very numbers oriented and has a background in sales and marketing. So he's a lot better than I was, but I've done it all, and so I kind of understand all the different perspectives. And so the last several years, I've been kind of functioning in an integrator role, which we have a huge tie for many years, gosh, probably since 2017 with EOS. Our
Yes.
EOS implementer is Lori Clements, and she's amazing. And so I've served in kind of the integrator role throughout the last several years where I kind of work between the customer service department and the sales department to make sure that the decisions that are being made are good for both and to kind of serve as a tiebreaker if there's any friction that comes up or things that we need to work around or different processes we need to put in place. So that's kind of what I've been doing most recently. But my mom has just kind of taken a step back over the last few years and just done what she really enjoys, which is answering the phones. She loves to talk to customers. And so she's just been doing policy reviews and answering the phones for the last several years. And so I have stepped in and done all of the administrative junk, like registering with brokered carriers and all that kind of stuff. So
Well,
that's kind
I
of
love
my
it.
backstory in a nutshell in the agency.
Well, now your website bio makes sense because literally you don't just have 30 years listed because we're texting last night, sending me a photo and stuff.
Hmm.
And I'm like, the website's just 30 years. I'm looking at you, you're not old enough, but literally you have 30 years and you just pivoted seamlessly from old school marketing, from stuffing envelopes, from door hangers
Yeah.
to and you mentioned the phone book, which many people on this podcast have never seen a good old white pages or yellow pages. So let's stay in this conversation for a moment. 1994, you're doing all those old school things. How much has your agency pivoted to doing things digitally today?
A ton. We've changed quite a bit over the years. I think if you don't change, you'll die. So we have made quite a few changes. They haven't always been comfortable, but whenever I think about things changing, and they always will in our industry, and with our company, of course, I think about the greats who I've known throughout my time in the insurance industry, and the people who I've always looked up to and respected and have done the best have been the people who are capable of pivoting and just finding the positive side of any changes that come out. And so I think it's something that we really strive for. We sometimes, can get frustrated with certain things that may happen in our industry or in our company. But at the same point, the best thing that we can do is just find a way to move forward in a positive manner. And that's what we really strive to do. So we went from, of course, physical phones and phone books and things like that to some more sophisticated telemarketing. We actually had a telemarketing program that I ran. Gosh, in the late 90s when I was in high school or early college, we had like 6 or 7 or 8 telemarketers that would come in and work from 5 to 8 and write everything down on a piece of paper. And the next morning, our producers would come in and do the quotes and then send it out in the mail and call back 2 weeks later. So thankfully, we have some technology now that allows us to shorten that sales cycle significantly and increase our urgency, which really helps us to produce a ton more. We use Ricochet has been,
Yes.
very important. We started using them about 7, 8 years ago. And so that helps us, to of course contact a ton more customers than we did in the old days when we had like a big Pendaflex file and we would like put a copy of the quote in the Pendaflex file and then call and follow up that way. So luckily we've been able to utilize technology to enable us to sell a lot more insurance than we were before. But
I love it. And shout out to
yeah,
Ricochet and David and all the wonderful folks over there. I saw your post the other day about it
yeah,
being approved that we can all use. So let's get into Texas a little bit. You talked about Texas labor laws. Shout out to Texas for being a business friendly environment,
yes.
which is why it's growing like wildfire today. Kristen, invite me to Corpus Christi. I know Texas is huge. I was that last year
Right.
for Leaders Forum, but I
Mhm.
don't have a sense of geography. Is Texas, I mean, is Corpus Christi inland? Is it coastal? Tell me a little bit about the area. If we were meeting in person in Corpus Christi today, where would we be eating at to do this podcast?
Oh gosh, there's so many good options. So first of all, Corpus Christi is a coastal town in South Texas, about 2.5 hours north of Mexico, right on the coast. And so we have some hurricane exposure there. There's some excitement about half the year from June to November in our agency over the potential exposure for hurricanes. The food's amazing, absolutely wonderful. You can't go wrong with the Mexican food or the seafood, and the steaks are pretty amazing too. So there's definitely some good stuff to eat there. I think if we were gonna meet today, I would suggest this amazing Peruvian restaurant
Ooh.
that I just ate at last week. There was something really different. I'd never had Peruvian food before, but it was so good. It was seafood with like a little like South American kind of twist, and it was really good. So I would suggest
I,
that one.
I love it. I love it. The combination of seafood and
Yeah,
Spanish food, two of my
yeah.
favorite combos. Absolutely awesome. So I have a sense of where it's at. It's coastal. Talk to me from an insurance standpoint. One of the reasons I'm doing the 50 podcast with 50 agents from 50 states is just showing the value of a local agent. So someone new moves into Corpus Christi. How important is it to get insurance from a local agent that can prepare you for those hurricane risks? And what are some of the key coverages that you might emphasize this, for someone coming to you, new to the area, doesn't know about the hurricanes and what it means to live there?
Yeah, we've been doing this for many, many years, and it's something a lot of agents shy away from. But because we're so used to it, it's something that is really just a part of our specialty. One thing I love about Allstate is that we do have an emphasis on having a local agent versus a lot of carriers that have gone to a more direct approach. And I think it's really important, especially in coastal areas, to have somebody that you can go physically talk to if there is a situation where there's no internet, no power. We actually had not quite a direct hit, but in 2017, we had Hurricane Harvey hit Rockport, which is just north of Corpus Christi. And we ended up losing power and internet for quite some time. And our claims manager, Grace, who's amazing, she's been with us 23 years and was with Allstate Claims for 14 years prior to that. She set up a table in the parking lot, and customers who needed us could come by, and she handed out waters and helped them file their claims. And so I think it's wonderful to be with Allstate because we blend the best of both worlds where we have that old school mentality of taking care of people and making sure that their families really are provided for, and also taking advantage of new technology to help serve them better and more efficiently. So we blend that in whatever way they're most comfortable with. Some don't love email and technology and apps on phones. We still have quite a lot of customers who actually walk into our office every day. So Corpus Christi is very much kind of like a 1990 mentality in a lot of ways. It's very old school, but we do have the newer technology to serve the customers who are more comfortable with that. So it's a good balance.
I love it. 2025, we're in a Wi-Fi world, but you just gave the best answer as to the local value. If the Wi-Fi goes down, every
Right.
direct, every 800, every .com is out of business. But if you're local and your agency has a table in the parking lot, that is the biggest "we're here, how can we help?" That's the biggest "hello, we're here, we're not hiding." Even if we can't talk to someone or input it on a computer, we can help. We can give out that advice.
Right.
What's the you probably remember, but any stories that come to mind where someone just really appreciated a time where, whether it was Hurricane Harvey or Hurricane Helene that you guys, I think a couple of years ago, where they really appreciated the local value of your agency and maybe some specific things you did with them to put their lives back together sooner versus later?
Yeah, I think we've had, gosh, just so many claims that have been settled really, really well. Particularly our catastrophe team is amazing. When that hurricane happened, that was our most significant hurricane, was Hurricane Harvey that we've had in recent memory. My uncle actually was an Allstate agent in Rockport where it hit. And Allstate's catastrophe team was amazing. They sent their big RVs, even though a lot of the claims were through Texas Windstorm,
Yes.
which is our state wind pool in Texas. Even though a lot of the claims weren't even Allstate claims, Allstate was willing to be a presence there and provided him with their RV, which had like a mobile hotspot so that he could have access to internet and help out clients. So it was an amazing thing to see. We actually bought water bottles and toothbrushes and little snacks and went door to door and actually delivered those items and went to churches and helped to distribute different things that people needed. But it was a wonderful time to really be an agent. I think there's a lot of times where we tend to focus on things like selling policies and hitting numbers and reaching goals, which is a fantastic thing to do. I always love to praise the successes of our team and the sales side. But when we get down to it and they're able to see us really put people's lives back together when they're devastated, it really speaks to the significance of what we're able to do for people and for their family on a regular basis, whether it be delivering a check for a life claim, which we actually did for a friend of mine when I was 19. She worked for us and she ended up passing away in a car accident. We were able to provide her family with that paycheck for $100,000, which was very significant to them. Obviously, not a replacement for her life in any way, but was very, very significant and helpful for them. We were able to do what we could, or whether it's just handing out little water bottles or teddy bears to kids who have lost everything, or even just your everyday claims where people have little fender benders or auto accidents or people are injured. We call and check on them, send them get well soon cards if they're in the hospital. Just do what we can to be good neighbors and make sure that we're helping out people wherever we possibly can. So we've gotten a lot of opportunities to do that over the past 30 years that we've been in business. And for the people who are with us for any length of time, it's wonderful for them to get to see the fruits of their labor.
No, absolutely. I just love what you said. Um, we're in the pocket of community, and you've made it clear to myself and everyone that's watching, everyone's listening, how you show up. A lot of times, Kristen, people get insurance confused. Some of our competitors have just emphasized the importance of cheap insurance and saving money, but we're here for the worst day in people's lives. So whether it's the 19-year-old friend who passed away, or whether it's a hurricane, um, talk about your thoughts about that. That we're selling policies not for the best day when you're saving me a couple of dollars, but for the worst day in my life and the effort you put in to restore someone's life before the car accident, before the house fire, before the loss of life.
Yeah, I think it's really a way that we are able to differentiate ourselves, not only from other carriers, but from other agents, even within Allstate. If we take the time to do our due diligence, and particularly for a business that's been around as long as we have, it hits different because I've taken calls before where someone passed away and gone to go look and see, oh my gosh, did I have a note that I asked them about life insurance in the past? Or people who, I have made sure that I asked, do they need flood insurance is extremely important, particularly in a coastal area. And we have those processes in place where we put notes in the system. We send a text message saying, please confirm you don't want flood insurance on every property policy that we sell. And we pay someone on the back end to make sure that that text message was received and replied to and confirmed. And it's just putting little processes in place like that to make sure that we're providing the best service possible for our customers. It's what really helps to set us apart from other agents.
I completely love it. Each answer you give me triggers 5 questions. Ea
Ask
each
away.
one triggers the next
Ask
one. So,
away. I'm ready.
everything you've done in our first few minutes has made it sound like it's really fun and awesome to work in your agency in Corpus Christi. So, talk to me about Texas. How hard is it for
Mm.
someone that wants to be in the insurance business, coming in as sales staff or any of the levels you've worked at? How hard is it to get a license and to get started?
For me, it's not hard at all. I typically hire unlicensed, and if someone is currently unemployed, I expect that they should be able to test within a week. If they are currently employed, I expect that they should be able to test within 2 weeks. And I would say probably 90% of people I hire are able to. So it's not difficult at all. I just purchase the material for them online, send it over to them, and tell them what their due date is and when they should be able to test. And then I'm able to kind of watch it on the back end. And it says a lot about people, how seriously they take it and how quickly they can move through it. So I like to be able to kind of keep an eye on that stuff. But it's pretty simple to get someone kind of licensed and going.
I love it. What are you looking for in your ideal employee? So you have someone unemployed or someone employed, obviously getting licensed quick, but what are the skill sets that make them a good fit for your agency?
I've done nothing but hiring for many, many years. And I actually took a little sabbatical for about the past 5 months to get through all of the Allstate onboarding stuff, but we've just started back up. And so we're going to be doing some more hiring. But typically, what I look for most is just somebody that I really like, somebody who can carry on a conversation that I'm not having to pull answers out of. If they're going to be friendly and conversational with me, then I know they'll do the same with my clients. And so I think that one's really, really important. And then beyond that, I think it's also important just to have somebody who has a really positive attitude. The culture of my team is really the greatest asset that we have. And we're only ever as good as our weakest link. So we're
Yes.
constantly fighting to make sure that we're only putting people on our team who really deserve to be here, who appreciate the opportunity, and want to really maximize what they've been given. And so I really appreciate very much the opportunity that Allstate provides us. And I only want people on my team that are really going to grab the bull by the horns and go maximize what they've been given as well.
I love it. So Corpus Christi, if you're listening, if you're friendly, if you're conversational, if you're
Yep.
likable, if you have a positive attitude, reach out to Kristen. She's looking for you and you'll have a
Yep.
wonderful opportunity. So, Kristen, we jump right into the business. I usually like to start these calls off lighter, but each answer you give me triggers another question. Let's talk about your beautiful family.
Okay, perfect. So, as previously stated, my kiddos are 22, 18, 13, and 2, almost 3, and they're fantastic. They're a ton of fun. My husband's amazing. He is has a background in sales and sales management, and he I actually met him through Allstate, and he
Nice.
was managing another agency, and we ended up acquiring that agency in 2021 in Temple, Texas, actually. So my agencies are like 4.5 hours apart from each other, so it's kind of
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
But ended up hiring him and acquiring that agency, and it's just been an amazing addition to our team, having us work together. He does more of the marketing, the sales, the coaching on the sales side, and I handle the operations and the organization and the service side of things. So we balance each other out very well. We work really well together, and we're best buds. And our kids are getting an interesting raising between the two of us, learning about learning about insurance. I was just explaining how health insurance works to my 18-year-old son this morning. So they're getting exposure to fun stuff like that. Our two oldest we took to a conference in Vegas a couple of years ago, and so we're trying
Yes.
to kind of expose them to some business stuff along the way.
Why not? Let's get a fifth generation out of this. So, big
Yep.
shout out to your husband. A big shout out to the double merger and acquisition. I've purchased a few books of business in my time, as many agents have done, but never did it come with a spouse. I'll be celebrating my 39th anniversary this Saturday coming
Oh,
up, and
congratulations.
thank you. I appreciate it. But what I really love best about your answer is say you and your husband are best buds. That's
Yeah.
everything.
Yep.
That is the priceless part of everything.
Yeah.
So riddle me this: you're in Texas, Corpus Christi, and Tempe or Temple,
Temple. Temple.
Temple, Texas. But I look on your Facebook page a couple of weeks ago. Happy belated birthday! You're
Thank you.
skiing. Where are we skiing at? Is it me? Am I not aware? Or are we outside of Texas? Where are we skiing at?
No, I we live in upstate New York primarily. So my husband's from upstate New York,
Okay.
so we live here. And we did have my uncle who had the agency in Rockport, and his family and his four kiddos came to visit us a couple of weeks ago, and we went skiing, and I'm terrible at it. It's
Well, you're from Texas. You're completely excused.
terrible. I'm absolutely
Where
terrible.
where in upstate New York?
Just outside of Rochester, New York.
Oh, I went to school, RIT, so great area. That
Really?
yes,
Small
absolutely,
world.
absolutely. Very, very
We're
small
in
world.
Webster.
Now I understand the skiing.
Yes.
Now I get it. We've talked a lot about just in our regular conversations, we hit a lot of the bullets. You mentioned that you have a lot of customers that walk in. How
Mhm.
else do customers find you?
I think a lot of our Corpus customers have a tendency to walk in or to be referred. We have a heavy referral presence because that's how that market is. Otherwise, we do a lot of marketing online. We buy a lot of internet leads. We do mailers. We, do a lot of different things to try and get people in the door. And so I think in our South Texas region, it has a tendency to be a lot more traditional old school signage and stuff like that. But outside of that local area, it's a mix of all kinds of stuff. So we have a heavy presence on Google, which we've been really trying hard to increase over the last few months. We've been working with Danielle Cameron at Search Perfect. She's been awesome
Excellent.
in helping our SEO maximization. And that was particularly important when the TCPA stuff was up in the air the last few
Yes.
months. And so we were trying really hard to focus on the referral and SEO side of things. And thankfully that was stopped. But of course, building those habits, it was things that we should have done the whole time. So it's been really quite a benefit.
Something that we'll stay with. So we touched upon community a lot in your
Hmm.
natural things that you're doing, whether it's the claims, the water bottle, the teddy bear,
Hmm.
organization wise, beyond what you're doing naturally, and it sounds like every day you mentioned get well cards and someone's not feeling well. Are
Right.
there any organizations that the agency has been involved with in the community that are personally important to you?
Well, we haven't done any additional involvement since I took over in December. I'm currently trying to work on my securities licensing, so I know you've been there, and so that's a whole different world for me. So I'm working diligently on trying to get that done before my 120-day deadline, which is coming up at the end of March. So I have not ventured into too much since I took over, but prior to that, my mom was very involved with a couple of different organizations. The Lighthouse for the Blind in Corpus Christi was one that she was very involved with, and then of course the Purple Purse. And
Yes.
there's also a kind of not like an orphanage, but kind of like a YMCA called Potter's House in Guatemala that she was been heavily involved with for over a decade, where she adopted children there and goes there still annually to see the kids and help build like water filtration systems and like fireplaces that cause the smoke in people's houses to go outside of the house because previously it was being like routed inside the house and giving them lung problems and stuff. And so that's kind of the stuff that she's done with the agency in the past. We'll see what I'm able to get to whenever I'm done with the securities testing.
2026, next year's business plan. That's
Yeah.
security. I'll make you
Yeah.
laugh. When I studied for my securities license, my wife, my family gave me like all weekend to study. Like they went away and I'm sitting, I'm studying, and I'm still coming to bed like a grouch. And my wife's asking me, "What's wrong with you? We gave you all the time you needed to study." I said, "I know, but I'm taking open book tests and I'm barely scratching a 70. It's not you,
Oh,
it's me. I'm just not getting the material."
yeah.
So I
It's
understand the
hard.
pain
It's a lot.
points. Yes.
Yes. Well, and I've discovered that over the last several years, I've been in a position to be able to delegate anything I don't like. And so, unfortunately, I'm at a point right now with this where I'm like, oh, I really have to do this and I can't make somebody else do it. So, it's not my cup of tea, particularly because I have an amazing EFS that I work with who
Yes.
will always get my referrals. I'm never going to do this on my own and have no desire to. But it's interesting material, but I just don't love the short time frame. I think I could probably take 3 years to learn it all if I was really gonna learn it.
No worries. Let the Peter principle kick in. Every task takes the amount of time allotted to it. You'll crush the deadline. Um,
Thanks.
you're new in, but you're already a leader in the agency force. Talk about the Texas Leaders Forum that you're working on,
Yeah.
planning right now. I'm fully registered for, looking forward to coming down in a couple of
Yay.
months.
I'm
Talk
glad.
about that process of what you guys are doing. I'm watching the maps get posted. It looks like you've got agents coming from every state in the union.
We're getting there. My mom actually started this conference 15 years ago with an amazing agent named Bill Egger. And so we retired this conference in 2019 was the last year prior to COVID, and then COVID hit. And we got together after that with Mike Daniels and Julie Alvarenga, who are dear friends of ours. And Julie was really the catalyst to say, we need to bring back Texas leaders. We need to bring back Texas leaders. And so we devised a plan to have kind of the four of us get together and bring it back with the blessing of Bill Egger. And he's just still an absolutely wonderful human. And so we are getting together, doing tons of planning, trying to make sure that it's a wonderful event. We just secured an amazing keynote speaker in the last few
Yes.
days who was actually the Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden and
Yes.
is now doing professional speaking. And so I'm excited to hear from him about how we can, kind of take the principles of leadership in the military and segue them into our insurance agencies because I think there's always those universal leadership principles. But excited to hear from some amazing Allstate agents too. We try to always include a ton of Texas agents, but also agents throughout the country that are doing special things that they're willing to generously share with us. But I think it's going to be a wonderful event. It's always a ton of fun. And just to network and meet new agents that we haven't met previously. So we're really looking forward to it. It's coming up April 16th through 18th in Arlington.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to do a free commercial for the Texas Leaders Forum. The location is impeccable. The networking insane. You're in walking distance to the
Mhm,
Texas Rangers, and then you had two awesome things. If I say it wrong, correct me. Texas Live and something else that's like
mhm.
next door. We happened to be there for the conference last year, and just by chance, they're promoting the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul
Yeah,
fight. So we're just over there
yeah,
just hanging out with no intention, and all of a sudden we're all
yeah,
there, we're in the room, they're talking major trash, and it was
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, that was actually kind of surprising to me too. I was just more concerned about the conference and, the behind the scenes stuff. And so I was like, "Oh, is that actually Mike Tyson? What?" Yeah, so that was kind of a surprise to me too, but it's an awesome location. There's a ton of stuff to do. I didn't get to a Rangers game last year, which I was disappointed with,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely going to plan on doing that this year. My mom's dad was a huge Dallas sports fan in general, so he would take us to Rangers games when we were kids. So I'm excited to get back over there this year. But there's just a ton of stuff to do. It's a really great location. Mike actually did a great job picking that one.
No, that is superb. I'm glad we're going back. The back view of Texas Live, you could see Dallas Cowboys Stadium from right there.
Mm.
So definitely, and like you, last year I missed the baseball game, but I think I'm going to do it this year. There's nothing like seeing baseball outside. There's just something about seeing baseball outside. If you don't watch any other games on TV, watching baseball outside is special from any other sporting event. And I like pretty much all sports. So,
Yep.
Kristen, we've talked about a lot of things. We talked about the business, we talked about the family, the legacy, and all that you're doing, in addition to running this mega, mega, mega agency. And you're also studying for the tests. So, here's the question I ask all my guests: how do you wind down at the end of the day?
I think I just pass out. I'm still drinking my coffee. I got up early this morning to study, but my husband makes fun of me because he's like, "You just have a switch."
Yes.
You're out within 5 minutes. And so really I just keep myself super busy during the day. So by the time, I'm done with cooking dinner and I'm a big fan of making sure my family has like well balanced nutritious meals. So, I cook dinner every night. We have family time and then I just pass out.
I got it. So that's your recommendation. Passed
Yeah.
out after you've
Yeah.
done all you
Stay
can.
busy.
Throw the towel in, that's it. Don't
Yes.
push yourself past that. So
Right.
that's our wind down,
Mhm.
tip from Kristen. Kristen, last 2 questions. Is there anything that you're working on at your agency that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you about?
Um, well, I will share that we decided to dust off our rust on our role play this morning, and my
Okay.
husband, in his infinite wisdom, chose to get on a meeting real quick with our sales team with it being close to the end of the month and do
Yes.
some role play, and we haven't done that in a while. We've been really kind of distracted the last few months with the agency acquisition and kind of the higher level things, and so it's been something that we've neglected, unfortunately. So I would say just don't discount the power of doing those role plays. As soon as he got off of his meeting, one of his producers got on the phone and was hit with the exact objection that he had practiced and was able
Yes.
to overcome it and get the quote. And so I think that was a really valuable reminder that we had this morning. The other thing I think I'll credit Mark Mercer on this one is he's really shown us the power of the one call close.
Yes.
And so we have an inter office chat that's just for one call closes. So we are just constantly posting in the chat when somebody has a one call close so that everybody can cheer them on. And that was a tip that we got from him, gosh, a year or so ago, just to kind of keep that front of mind because it's so important that we try to wrap up that business as quickly as possible. I think as humans, we have a tendency to kind of fear the yes a little bit and want to cut straight to like, can I send this to you in an email? Or if it was like in the 90s, can I mail this to you in
No,
the US Postal
no,
Service? And who knows
no.
if it'll get there. Um, but I think sometimes, my husband and I, tend to talk to the staff sometimes about the internal objections really sometimes are worse than the external objections. And so just bearing in mind the importance of just having that urgency and going for the close in every single phone call and encouraging your staff to do that on every single time. I think that you'll always get a better result if you swing the bat than if you don't.
I love it. I love it. I love the urgency of now. And big shout out to Mark Mercer. He and I play sneaker games. We'll be battling to see who has the freshest
Oh,
sneakers on. So that's me and Mark's deal. I love
there you
that
go.
you said fear the yes and the that fear. So Chris, one of my attitudes towards selling is this. I think that all of our prospects are equally as busy as you and I. And if we've taken the time, if we were talking for 15 minutes about insurance today, I'm ready to buy today. I just don't have another 15, 20 to go
Yeah,
through the conversation with someone else. So if we've engaged that long in a conversation, you want to buy, I just have to make it easy for you. And so, Krista, how would you like to start it and go
right,
ahead? And the internal objection, I don't think I've heard those words, but there's so much stuff happening inside of us that we're saying, I wonder if Kristen really wants to buy and should I ask or is the price
right.
right? All those things. So great job. So my closing question is this. I always like to ask my guests to give encouraging words to my listeners, to my watchers, whether you're watching on a live stream, whether you're listening to it at a later date on a podcast. If there's someone out there that's thinking about getting in this business or another business, and maybe they're having a hard time right now, I would love for you to share an encouraging word to encourage them to keep going.
Sure. So I will say that insurance can be difficult. I know with Allstate, everyone just got new goals released, and some people are struggling now with those goals. There was some comp changes last year, and a lot of folks struggled with that. But like I always tell my team, we're not making Subway sandwiches here. This is it's a difficult job, but the rewards are well worth it. The way that it has changed my life and the lives of the people in my personal family and the lives of my staff are just immeasurable. When we were little kids, there was times when our electricity was cut off. There was times where like every weekend we would go to Taco Bell and we could only get one thing off the 59-cent menu, and me and my
Yes.
sister had to
Yes.
share a small drink, and my mom started with Allstate in 94, and by 97 we were taking, trips to the Bahamas and New York City and seeing things that we had never been able to see. And so I know that it can be really challenging, and it's something that does take a lot of work, just like the security studying that I'm having to do. But I also have to be reminded of the wonderful things that I have been given because of the opportunity that I've had. And so I would just say for anyone who is considering a career in this industry or with this company, just keep at it and keep going, because if you're willing to maximize the opportunity, it can change your life and the lives of the people that you love more than anything else that I've ever seen possible without a college degree and spending a $500,000 somewhere at grad school or something. You can just come in with a little high school education and work really hard, and it's really the quintessential American dream.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, the awesome, amazing, awe-inspiring Kristen Maxwell. Thank you so much, Kristen. Absolutely fabulous guest. You gave jewel after jewel after jewel, tip after tip after tip that I know is going to benefit my audience greatly. So, everyone watching live, listening to it later on your podcast platform, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast at, if you like the content that you heard here today, please click below on the link, subscribe, hit the notifications button so you can be notified when this content is out and you can re-listen to this over and over again. I personally took a lot of notes. I'll be listening to and processing this as well. So again, thank you everyone for tuning in, for watching us today. Thank you to all of you that have subscribed already. Thank you to those of you that plan on subscribing. Thank you to my sponsors, Carol Media and Canopy Connect, and my newest sponsor, Wintrust Bank. Thank you, everyone. And special thanks. Lots of clap hands emojis, lots of positive comments. Say nice things about the awesome job that Kristen Maxwell did. Ladies and